I did not get introduced to like worship music that was like contemporary until I was even out of college.
Oh wow. Yeah. I see that.
So
okay.
I listened to
So what was it?
secular.
What was the type of artist? I'm just curious. I don't know.
You do know, so it's fine.
Who are you listening to?
I was listening to a lot of stuff. I was listening, it's a little this, a little that. Listen to a lot of things.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Grey-Purview. I keep saying the Grey-Purview. It's just Grey-Purview. There's no the.
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Grey-Purview. Again, we want to say thank you to everybody who has just been engaging with us, giving us suggestions, telling us all kinds of other things we could talk about and what they want to hear about and stuff like that. We're so excited about that. So we're here. We're ready to do this. My wife, again, is going to... for those who don't know, my name is Anthony Rogers. This is my wife, Morgan. And Grey-Purview is just a podcast where we talk about all the gray areas in our lives that involves race, Christianity, and all those other things. And so if you've tuned in with us for the last couple of episodes, you probably have an idea of what how we handle ourselves in these types of things. However, today we're going to switch it up a little bit because the last couple of topics we were, focused on the race side of, what Grey-Purview is about and kind of talking about that. Today we're going to kind of go and dive into like the Christian side of who we are and just kind of some of the gray areas, I guess, that happen there.
Yeah. So the question for this week is...
You're answering the question.
The question for this week is secular music really that bad?
All right. So I guess...
we've never talked about this before.
No. I just feel like we've always just kind of... we just approached it. Like, you listen to what you listen to and I listen to... I don't know that we've ever...
You judge heavily, though.
We'll get into that later. But it's like... So I would say, one, I think that you just have to understand what the definition of secular is. I think secular is a word that the church has used to... It had a definition that wasn't related to the way put emphasis on that word. It's that word secular. Secular really, when it was created, just meant anything that wasn't for the church. So
do you know when it was created, when that word came out?
I don't. Oh, you want to Google it?
I Google a lot whenever we're having conversations because I like to be the winner of the information.
Yeah, but I know that initially when the word came out, it was just to distinguish between who... so secular songs, for instance, because that's what we're talking about. It was songs that were not written for the church. So you had songs that were written for the church, and then you had songs that were, written about love or about, marriage or about whatever those songs, would be. So, for instance, like Shakespearean literature would not be considered written for the church. Not all of it would be considered like it was written for the church, like Romeo and Juliet or something like that. Like, that wasn't written for the church, but that would be considered secular.
So apparently secular derives from the Latin word saeculum, which meant of a generation belonging to an age. Another thing said that it means the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that makes sense. So something that belongs to the world, not to the church?
Yeah, I guess so. So I guess, I think that's the first thing to know. But I think that we've just, like with a lot of things, we've just beat those things, over the head, especially depending on the type of church that you grew up in and stuff like that. I will say,
Beat what over the head?
like, don't listen to secular music. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I didn't grow up that way.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I said. Depending on how you grew up, how I grew up, I don't think it was, at least in my home with my mother, it wasn't really like, don't listen to secular music. She just didn't listen to secular music. Whereas with my dad, like, in the terms of secular, what we consider secular, that's why I know all the old school stuff, man. My dad taught me so much about like Marvin Gaye and like Bootsy Collins and just everything. Like my dad would play all that stuff. And so I think that some of that crafted that part of me as a musician. And so, I think that, as it relates to secular music, I think it just depends on. Oh, so then what has been your experience with secular
I never
music?
even heard the term secular music.
Really?
No.
But so
not until like I got older.
Where did you hear it?
Probably from you, actually. I don't know.
Listening to that secular. Yeah. And so, well, I will say this, because I think I think it's important to talk about why I feel like the church emphasized that, which I don't think is a bad thing. Like, so let me put that out there. I think that it becomes a bad thing when you try to overregulate stuff. And so ultimately what happened was from my thought, it's, the Bible talks about everything that that enters into your eyes or that enters into your ears, it speaks to you. And so it can enter into your heart and stuff like that. And so it's like, you need to be vigilant and careful about the things that you listen to and the things that you hear and stuff like that. And so that's kind of where so you shouldn't be listening to this, that, or you shouldn't be listening to X, Y, and Z. And
but
stuff like that.
Saying you shouldn't listen to secular music, I feel like goes way beyond just be careful about what enters the door.
Like, so what do you mean? Like, it goes way beyond, like, how?
Well, because I just mean, like, that to me, saying secular music, if that means anything that's not played in the church.
That wasn't made for the church.
So anything that was not made for the church?
Yeah, that's where the term came from.
What do you mean made for the church? You mean like for the church building?
Like if I wrote a song and my intention wasn't for the song to be done in worship, for the church to sing.
So you can't what if you make a song for you to just sing in your house?
Well, Happy Birthday is a secular song. You see what I'm saying? Like, you see, like,
well, yeah,
Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is a secular song.
Anything that's okay. That's just okay. Super broad. Opera.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's why I said I feel like they've taken it, or we've taken it as a church. I can't say that I've personally done it, but I can't separate myself from the church either. But I feel like we've taken it and we've just regulated it. I feel like then you start to decide what you should and shouldn't listen to. I think that gets into really murky waters too, because it's just like because people have problems with like Christian artists that are like having secular artists on their songs and stuff
okay,
like that.
But let's then
So then I guess let's start with what is your history with music as it pertains to Christian music or secular music or either? Like, what is your history with that term? I mean, you said the first time you heard the term was with me. So what kind of music was you listening to before? Was you just not, were you already listening to?
I never listened to worship music ever.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, that wasn't like the only time that you heard. I went to a more traditional church.
Yeah.
So that it was hymns.
Okay.
So
I
that's
wasn't worship music.
But I wasn't playing hymns on my
your
cassette tape.
Your CD player.
Yeah. So then the only like non-hymn songs that were worship songs would have been what I heard at like camp. So like Christian camp.
Is there a reason why you didn't want to play those songs like from camp?
I mean, they were like...
You wouldn't,
They were like VeggieTales like songs.
Whatever.
I'm 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 playing VeggieTales songs.
He's a great big God. I just
didn't...
That song bumps.
I did not get introduced to like worship music that was like contemporary until I was even out of college.
Oh wow. Yeah. I mean, I see that. I mean,
So I
okay.
listened to
So yeah, so what was it? So
secular.
what was the type of artist? I'm just curious. I don't know.
You do know, so
Kind
it's
of who are
fine.
you listening to?
I was listening to a lot of stuff. I was listening, it's a little this, a little that. Listen to a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so okay,
I
so
still do.
I know. Okay, we'll get there. So I think my experience growing up with it, like I said, my mom played Christian music and stuff like that. In the last podcast, talked about how she we bumping Christian music on the weekends and stuff like that. In the last episode, and my dad, he had a record player and stuff like that. I remember whenever we were living in his apartment. He had like a record player and stuff like that, and he put the vinyl on there. And we heard Luther Vandross, Stevie Wonder, like that. Like my dad introduced me to Stevie Wonder, and to this day, it's like it's Stevie Wonder, man. And so it's like, there was always kind of this tale of two, music influences and stuff like that. And so, when I'm with my mom, it was very gospel and stuff like that. And with my dad, it was very much oldies and, some current stuff, but not a bunch. And then, mix my cousins into the wave, and I had older cousins and they had access to different stuff. So like, I remember the first time I heard of like Usher and Jay-Z and like these people and stuff like that was from my older cousin. And he had like, their CDs and stuff like that. And I remember I told you a story, like, when I was in third grade, my teacher had everybody bring like a CD to school for like, I think it was like Spirit Week or something like that. And so my teacher had us bring stuff to school and like CDs to school, and we were able to play 2 songs off the record. And so like I had a friend that she came and she played In Sync or whatever like that. And it was like, in the class is hype, oh, bye, 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 whatever was, hype in third grade. And then, and then I had somebody else come in playing Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys and just all the stuff that was there. And so it was my turn to play. And I got my mom's Winans album, and then we did 2 songs off of there, and I could tell there was a little tension in the room, like like playing the Winans, and my friends made me feel good, like we're just going back and forth. They never heard this song before, I'm sure, and but it wasn't as popular as like what the other kids were listening to, and I think that was probably the first time that I realized that I listened to different music. Like I've heard NSYNC's music and stuff like that before, but I never owned it, or like where I was
I
able
didn't
to.
either though, but
But you probably didn't want to.
yeah, I'd heard it, but I didn't
It's
own
like,
it.
I didn't own it, and so
That's so funny to me that you didn't like you hadn't really been exposed to it in the same way that other kids
the first album I got that was secular was 8701 by Usher. That's where he had.
had. I mean, you went in.
Well, yeah, I asked my mom for it for Christmas, and I didn't think she was gonna get it for me. And I remember it had I was so happy when I got that. It had You Remind Me. It had You Don't Have to Call and all that other stuff. And so I was like, so excited and everything like that. And I played that record out. And then the second secular album I got was 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying. So yeah, I went in. But yeah, that was my experience with it overall. But
So what was your mom's opinion?
I don't know that. I think after a while she didn't really listen to like what I was listening to and stuff like that. Because I was still listening to her stuff too. Like I was listening to both simultaneously. It's not like I chose one over the other. It's like I held the gospel artists that I grew up with in high esteem, if not higher esteem, than the new secular music that I had. And if anything, the music that I was more accustomed to, at least at that time, was the old stuff that my dad was playing. So like we would take my dad's Stevie Wonder CD collection and bump that, and and we think we hot stuff because we got some Stevie, and so
But did she have like a problem with
Nah,
you
I mean
listening to
that's what I'm
certain
saying.
things?
It wasn't the fact that she had a problem with it, but you could definitely. She never addressed like she had a problem with it to us directly.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of just the overall thought of the church.
So the church made it clear to you that the
Yeah,
church had a problem with
you
it.
could tell that. Like, yeah, we were. I remember we were playing like we played "Stomp" by Kirk Franklin at the church one time. Like "Stomp,"
Mm-hmm.
make me clap
Mm-hmm.
my hand, and that was a problem. Or John P. Key started wearing earrings or something like that, and like we couldn't. And these are like gospel legends, and we couldn't, do John P. Key anymore. And so I mean,
Yeah,
it's
you
just
were on like way on the other side that I was on. I was not on that train.
not even a little
Not
bit.
even a little.
So,
Was not influenced by that train at all. I can't even relate.
so how do you think that affects the way you listen to music now? Like, do you think,
I don't have the guilt associated with it.
you don't feel like it's wrong?
I feel like so we're gonna just talk. We're gonna decide. We're gonna just pick a side.
No, I don't feel like you need to pick a side.
Well, I thought. I mean, okay. So I think that it can be wrong.
Okay.
I think that for me, I think okay. So when I first really started personally entering into my relationship with God, it wasn't something that had been just talked about to me and where I felt obligated to participate in it. When I actually first started pursuing my own relationship with God, I was in my 20s. And one of the people that was kind of influential in that whole situation was super judgmental toward my music selections. And they wanted me to just throw all of my music away. And I was like, I'm not there though.
Yeah.
So just because you're there and because you got there in however long it took you to get there, because you've been in church your whole life, or
Right.
you pursued your relationship with God in a more serious way than I ever have until now, don't put that on me. Just because you're there in your walk doesn't mean I'm there yet.
Right.
And so I was convicted. I was more shamed for it. I felt
Been convicted.
I didn't feel convicted about it in my relationship with God at that time. I knew that, I mean, obviously there's certain types of music that I think is pretty obvious that are not good for us as Christians to listen, or good for anybody, realistically. I think they're good for anybody to listen to.
Yeah.
I think anything that's like negative in the way that it makes you feel, in the way that it makes you view other people, in the way that it makes you view women or men in general, or I think anything like that.
So can you listen to that? Can you listen to that? So can you be a person and listen to that and not exhibit those traits? So even if you're listening to a song that seems like it's objectifying women, do you feel like you can listen to that and not participate?
I think you can, but I mean, the Bible says, like, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, to think on those things, not to think on other things, because it does affect us. And I can say, if I'm honest, when I listen to certain types of music that I used to listen to, not only does it, I think the words themselves are not positive, but also it puts me into the mind frame that I used to be in, because it's like nostalgic, and it makes me kind of miss that and long for that type of life, kind of, in a way. And so I think that in that way, I don't think that it's good for us to listen to, because we're just pondering on and meditating on like negative stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's healthy for anybody to do. Music makes you feel a certain way.
That's
And
true.
if music makes you feel sad because it's real melancholy, and you start getting into like
Depressed
zone,
and stuff like that.
and
Right.
it's like when you kind of force yourself to be sad about something and you weren't even really sad, and then you like think about it more, and then you dwell on it, and then you like make yourself upset about something.
Yeah.
I think
That's a good
kind of
point.
like
I mean,
that.
I feel like I think that that's a really good point. I also think, you're right. Music does have emotion and feelings attached to it. And I think that in the same way, there could be even like Christian songs that would make you feel that way. You know what I'm saying?
Like negative.
Like negative, or like if they're like how you were saying, like, you had an attachment with something. Like, what if you had a bad attachment? You know what I'm saying? Like that sometimes, man, I just had that thought. I've never thought of that before. But like, if you had like an attachment, like a song that you heard or whatever like that, and it reminds you of this time in your house or whatever like that, where tensions were high and things weren't good, but that song was always playing, and it wasn't necessarily encouraging or anything like that. It was just a song, and so it wasn't even what the song was saying or anything. It's just the fact that I think I was talking to Jay, or maybe I was talking to Spencer, but I remember I was saying, like, what music does is it really just puts a stamp on, like, like it's almost like a time machine. You know what I'm saying? Like, music,
Like a smell.
yeah,
It'll take
like
you
it can
back
take
to-
you back anywhere. And so, but I hear you. I think that, your perspective is, obviously, I think your perspective is dope. Not on everything, but on this for sure. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, do you think that secular? I said there's a lot of positive secular
Yeah, I know.
quote unquote music though.
Yeah, because I'm happy.
Ooh, that was
Because I'm happy. No, I'll auto-tune it later. No, yeah, it's a little different for me. I think that there was a time that I just listened to anything. And now I feel like as I've gotten older and just in my walk with Christ, like, first, let me just preface this. Like, I listen to everything. Like, I mean, as far as music is concerned, like, I don't be like, oh, well, that's rap, I'm not going to listen to that. Or, you know what I'm saying? I'll do that with artists. There's certain artists that I'm just like, you're not talking about anything, and I don't really care for the music behind, like, the beat or anything like that, like, or even like your cadences. And so I like, but anyway, like, I think for me, I've always approached music as a whole as art. You know what I'm saying? And so, like,
you think you can appreciate it outside of
yeah, I never like and there, I mean, I still have a level of some of the things that I'll hear and stuff like that. Like, I like where it's just like, this is just not even creative. Like, this, I mean, like, and so, some people can find the celebratory stuff in that and everything like that. But, like, for instance, like Trina or like Little Kim and stuff like that. Like, even though I respect female rappers, I just couldn't. Especially at that age, like, it was almost like inappropriate for me to be hearing stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, I can think of if you.
So it was like, but I think at the same time, but the artistry of it, of music, and just like writing, and especially like as a songwriter, as a young songwriter, like, figuring out like how people were breaking down their cadences and stuff like that, or why they rhymed this word with this word, or like we were talking about, like, rhyming sentences and stuff like that, or just even like how, like, why did the 808 drop out there and then hit 3 times in this part, and then they had like 3, like, it was almost like a painting, so it's like, if you walk into an art gallery and there's a painting of, whatever century, but they often drew women naked and all that other kind of stuff. And so you can look at that and be like, ew, like, my God, like, this is so vulgar. Why would you put a picture or painting of these, naked, whatever here? Or you look at the oil that was used, or you look at the detail that was put into it, or you learned how much time it took for this artist to make this. And, and so I think
with some music you can do that. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think that that's necessarily the case across all.
No, for sure it's
things,
not. But
to
it's
just appreciate the science behind.
No.
It's like looking at math.
No, well,
Like looking at numbers. Like, it's not, the numbers in themselves aren't damaging to you. But, like, I mean, I don't know.
But so, I mean, that's for me. That's like, and so, like, there's secular songs that I think are trash and I don't like. Not just because of the content of the vulgarness. It's just not.
So you're
what
just
I'm
thinking
into.
about it as in, like, vulgar.
Yeah, I mean,
Fair enough.
ultimately, it's just like, one, it's like, there's a lot of songs that I'll hear that, and honestly, and I think it's, also has to do with just the genre, right? Because, like, I feel like, and I mean, to be blunt, it's like, I feel like rap is like demonized because of it, what, for whatever reason, whether it's not understanding the culture or what they're talking about and all that other stuff, I feel like it's demonized on some level. Not to say that all rap is great and that everybody has the best motives and everything like that, but I feel like as a genre, it's taken the most scrutiny when, like, rock has done crazy things and will promote cocaine and all this other type of stuff, but it's almost
And
like,
tearing off a dove's head. You
yeah,
remember when what's that?
Ozzy,
Yeah.
yeah,
He
and so I
bit
mean,
off the dove's
yeah,
head.
and I can guarantee you that I've never seen Jay-Z do that. I can promise you, I've never seen that. And so it's just like, I feel like, there's even unfair scrutiny sometimes when it comes to that genre of music, rap, R&B, or whatever it be. But I also think that, I've always had issues with like lust and stuff like that. And so
When you think about
yeah, and so
music
it
that's secular, that's what you think
right,
about.
and so it's harder for me to listen to music that's
Yeah.
like pushing that stuff in your face. Whereas
I feel
for
like in
somebody
some
else,
ways, I feel like this kind of red tape around secular music has been, in some ways, a form to, oh, like, we're gonna protect you, but also I think it comes out of like a fear. So if you don't struggle with something, then, like, I don't struggle with lust, and so when I go into an art gallery, I'm not a little boy that's seeing breasts for the
right,
first time, and
right,
I'm like, oh my gosh. I just think of it as just like art.
right,
And so I think in some ways it's like, if you've gotten to a certain point, or if there's certain things that you just don't struggle with, then certain types of music that may be an issue for someone else they're not going to be an issue for you. And so I think in some ways it's like, if you feel convicted about
that's
it,
where it is.
then you shouldn't do it, and you should look into why do you feel convicted
Right.
about it, and work that out. Because ultimately, I think if you do feel convicted about listening to something, it could stem from something much deeper that is probably more important to deal with. And so not to just ignore the fact that you're feeling convicted and like, okay, I'm just going to avoid that kind of music, but maybe dig into why you feel that way, and obviously don't listen to it, and dig into why that's causing you like certain conflict. I think that some music is very obviously a conflict for probably anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, even if I don't deal with lust, or don't, whatever the topic is that's negative in the music, it's probably not healthy to dwell on.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, so it's like I can listen to somebody rapping about like drugs or something like that, and it has zero effect. It doesn't make me feel like, man, I want to go try that, or man, I remember when I was, because it's just like I don't do drugs, nor have I
But I
done
still
them and
feel
stuff
like
like that.
that's not something that we should be.
Yeah, no. Well, the thing is that I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not something that sticks to me. Like, I don't even know that there's a bar that I could quote that's like, oh yeah, that's a drug bar. I mean, maybe if I sit and think about it, I probably could. But it's like, it's not something that I ponder on because it doesn't stick in the way, because it's not something I can relate to. Like, I would ponder on it. I feel like when you ponder on something, it's because there's something there that makes you think about it, or you
Yeah.
can relate to it, or in
Yeah.
some type of way. But I can't. I have no. I just can't. And so I'll say this. There are things that I listen to that, or I have heard, and I'll get convicted by. There's things that I used to listen to that I don't listen to anymore, or don't even like repeat, like because I like, just in how I've grown in that way. But I also think that I don't like I there are things that I listen to simply just because I like music and the art of it and everything like that. And honestly, like, I'll say this, one of my goals with music as it relates to Christian music is to diversify it. I feel like there's just this stipulation with Christian music of it being corny, and it serves just the purpose of just being, I don't know. And so I mean, like, it just has a thing. It's like, if you tell me, hey, listen to this song, and I'd be like, okay, and you're like, yeah, it's rap, and they'd be like, okay, that's dope, and you'd be like, it's Christian rap. There's always like this, like, cut the record is gonna be some 2002 beat that was recycled, and and they think it's tight or something like that, or and not to say that that's everybody, but that's just this stigma attached to it. And so one of my goals, just as a Christian and as a Christian artist or music person, is to figure out how I can diversify and bring some of the things that I love about all of the music that I listen to. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, I love samples. I love, like, all that other kind of stuff or whatever like that. But bringing some of that into the mix where it's done at a high level also. Again, that's not any shade to anybody. I just feel like that's just kind of the
Well, that's why
stigma.
people don't want to listen to like
Yeah, I mean,
certain Christian music.
yeah, I mean, yeah, and it's yeah. No, I think you're right. So, I mean, that's mine. I mean, so I guess, what do you think the
I
church
don't.
would say about?
I guess it depends on what church. Because I think like some people are probably gonna be really upset if they heard this.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think one.
I do think like there is a spiritual element to music. I think that's why it moves us the way that it does. It makes us think. It brings out emotion. There is something spiritual about music,
I agree.
and so
I think it's
I
just
don't want to minimize the fact like, oh, whatever, like just listen to whatever, because I don't think that that's
no.
true.
I agree. I agree.
And I think that we really should be protecting our hearts and our minds and what enters us through our eyes as well. And so I don't want to act like, oh, just it's okay to just listen to anything, because I don't think that's true. But I think that the term secular is so broad that it just doesn't even have any meaning.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, what I'd say is I think that we named it earlier. Is just, where do your convictions lie? Like, if you feel some type of way when you turn on something, like, ask yourself why you feel that way. Like, there's, to this day, like, if there's a song and it has like a bunch of cussing and stuff in it, I'm like, I said a bunch because, like, I mean, like, I be cussing, and so
Well, you're a lot more like, you feel more strongly about things whenever you're hearing them than I do in the moment.
yeah. But it's just like, I mean,
But
granted,
what
I'm
if you
working on all
don't
of
feel
that.
convicted? What if you don't feel convicted?
Yeah, well, I mean, but I think you got to think about who brings conviction, right? So it's like the whole.
Sometimes you can be so numb to it though that you don't feel convicted, not because there isn't an effort
We're
to
gonna
make you
have
feel
to have a
convicted.
part two because we're already. But I mean, you're right though. But I feel like that's the. I mean, that's the hard part, is that, you know, when I was younger, there was things that I listened to and didn't feel any type of way because I didn't know what they were talking about. And now that I'm older and I listen to that and I know what they're talking about, it don't make me feel the same way that I felt when I was younger. And if anything, I'm listening to it through like nostalgia, but I'm just like, what? Like, this is what they was. Oh my God! Like, I didn't even, And so then there's a battle between, how it makes me feel nostalgic wise as opposed to what's going into my ears. But I also think that, you do need to guard what's going into your ears. Like, you need to, be very aware of the things that are, but I think that for me, I've been like, I feel like I'm just naturally I'm always that way. I think that's why I don't like follow the hype on, well, so-and-so got a new album out and stuff like that. Like, I'm not about to hop on that album immediately just because you say so and stuff like that, because, I want to kind of just be, I guess, almost like prepare myself to listen to it and know that I'm going into it for like the art purpose.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
it just depends on who the artist is. You know what I'm saying? Like Kendrick, I listen to a lot of Kendrick Lamar, and and not that he talks about, great things all the time, but I mean, but he's very creative and stuff like that in the way that he puts words and stuff together, and but it's not. But I don't listen to that every day either, and I also do listen to a lot of worship music too. So I mean, there's also just kind of that balance of which dog you feed more. Like, I feel like.
I mean,
What do you mean? What?
I get what you're saying, but like I think people that are non-musicians, they just it doesn't apply.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's just like, okay, well, if I might listen to a little 3-6 over here, but then I do listen to a lot of worship music. It's like, but that's not.
So then what would your advice be? I mean, I only know how I view the world as a musician because that's who I am. I don't know how to
I know.
not
I
view
get
it.
I know.
I don't know how to
You
not,
just can't lower yourself, Tower.
I'm not saying lower myself. I'm just saying that's how I view the world. Jeez.
Well, I don't know. I think that obviously if it doesn't line up with scripture as far as like what you're thinking on, God says don't do it even if you don't feel convicted.
That's true.
I mean, but if you do feel convicted,
That's a
pay attention
right,
to it.
that's a bigger sign. I feel like we beat this topic over the head. Do you feel like there's anything else we missed? All right. Well, I'm gonna go have to clear out my iPod, I guess. No, I was kidding. Yeah, that's a great question. I think honestly, like, this is the perfect place for you to engage and write it in the comments, send us messages and stuff like that. What do you think? It doesn't mean that we'll agree with you, but we definitely want to hear what you think. Maybe it'll allow us to kind of go further and deeper into that, and maybe we'll readdress this soon, or just send out some updates or something of things that we found out. What do you think?
All right.
All right, y'all. Well, this has been another episode of the Grey-Purview. My name is Anthony Rogers. This is my wife, Morgan Rogers. You can follow her on Instagram at
She's a lawyer.
She is a lawyer.
She is.
She's a lawyer. She's just
She's a lawyer.
SHE, a lawyer. SHES.
Yes.
Okay, a lawyer. She's a lawyer. And then you can follow me on Instagram at whoisanthony, or on Twitter at whoisanthonyr. We love you. We thank you for joining us today. I hope the rest of your week or life is beautiful. Until next time. See you later.